Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hi, it's me, Jackie Cation. Welcome to the Dork Forest. Let's do the credits. Patrick Brady's going to fix this audio and video because that's what he's like. Vilmo's still working on the website. He does the Jackie Cation store website. I just had it redone by Promotional Rescue, Melanie VC, but promotionalrescue.com did the new website. Vilmo still does the store website, JackieCationStore.com. You can go to JackieCation.com and see whatever you'd like. Me doing stand-up, where I'm doing stand-up. Please come out and see live shows. You can see the new special. You can see the new old videos. You can see, you can get merch if you want. There's a Dork Forest t-shirt. There's a new beanie because I have a new joke about bees. And so there'll be a new t-shirt. And for the holidays, you can indeed get yourself t-shirts or hats or anything like that. It is November and December, so I ask that you do not donate to the Dork Forest. Normally, I say donate to the Dork Forest as much as you'd like. But in November and December, take that money and donate locally to a food bank in your neighborhood. So feedingamerica.org is a way that you can look up your local food bank. You just put your zip code in. You could also Google the words food bank and the name of your town. And that's what I recommend you do globally, too. If you're in Australia or Europe or Africa or South America, wherever you are, please. Iceland. I have listeners all over the world, you guys. So Patrick Brady, Mike Ruekberg. That's why I forgot. Mike Ruekberg wrote and sang the intro song. He will sing the Mexican hat dance at the end of the program. And there's lots of episodes. So feel free to scroll back through dorkforest.com. You could check out my Tumblr account. There is a Facebook group called Dork Forest Rangers. But my Tumblr account has essentially the fan favorites of the shows for the last 18 years. And no, I don't think it's actually the whole 18 years because the first 3 years were poorly recorded. And so if you go to bandcamp.thedorkforest.com, you can see I curated that first 3 years into 17 of my favorite episodes. There's also a storytelling album on my Bandcamp, and there is just some loose episodes that you can buy for $1, I think, that were live. Anyway, a lot of information. Let's get into the show. It's me, Jackie Cation, and I'm in my garage. And with me this week is great comedian. Oh, I forgot to ask about what glorious things we should plug. But it's Liz Glazer. It's Liz Glazer,
Yeah.
you guys. She's in New Jersey. She's a delight to behold. And she's going to dork out with us today. Welcome to the program, Liz Glazer.
Oh, thank you, Jackie Cation. I'm so excited to be here. I love also, you had asked if I wanted a shirt. And that's how we got here, because you had emailed me being like, hey, I just need your shirt size because you did the podcast. And I was like, I would love a shirt, and I would also love to do the podcast. So if I know you said you didn't know what to plug for me, but if I can plug your shirts, for sale, I've seen them around.
They're
very cool.
You guys.
Yeah.
The new Dork Forest, it's the same logo, but it's on a black shirt. Used to be on a green shirt and a brown shirt, and now it's on a black shirt because the black old Ranger where dorky things came out of the forest that my nephew Salmon designed, that's discontinued. So now what we have left here is a brand new union made TDF, the Dork Forest t-shirt, with the Rebel Alliance symbol on it without the benefit of copyright, a quote from the Lord of the Rings, and a D12. Yes. Go to JackieCation.com. You can go to JackieCationStore.com. Skip the middleman. You won't have to sit through my tour dates. You won't have to sit through videos of me telling jokes. Or you could just go to JackieCation.com and navigate to the merch page. Okay.
But also, what a delight to listen to you tell jokes. I think of your delivery of DiGiorno joke every time every time I make a pizza at home.
Every time.
Literally
every time
every
a home
time.
pizza. Every time.
Yep.
Well, that joke hilariously, you know how jokes, we're just going to talk about comedy for a second, Rangers. By the way, it's LIZGLAZER. It's at Liz Glazer everywhere you want to go to find out where she's doing stand up and all the things.
Yep.
So, I didn't check your pronouns. Is that okay? She?
Oh yeah.
Are you she, her these days? Me too.
I am.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And though I have to tell you, this is something that just happened. I'm wearing them right now. Back in junior high, I didn't even realize I was doing the exact same thing I did in junior high. When I started liking the fellas,
Mhm.
I was at an airport probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I saw a guy wearing an outfit, and he looked really good in that outfit.
Yeah.
And I bought that outfit.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean,
In an effort to, I guess, get in that guy's pants would be the punchline. That would be the punchline to that. Except for that I kind of feel sexy wearing the clothes because I remember how sexy that guy made me feel from across the room.
Totally. Well, I mean, great style that speaks to you is great. Like whether it arises from like, I want to be that person. I want to have sex with that person. I want to marry that person. Like it's all some kind of adoration and
interesting.
love.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. You're right.
I think.
Yes, I think you're right. It's funny. I told a friend of mine that, and he said, "Oh, you've given me an insight into why I wore women's pants in college. It wasn't because they fit better. It was because I liked how those girls looked in those pants."
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird glimpse into the
Totally. And that's a great punchline as a side note.
Right. As a side note, that punchline's going to work just fine because who doesn't want to hear something like that? A clothing-based sex talk. So
Sure.
So what I will say is that what I was going to say about stand-up is that a lot of jokes don't hold up even 4 years later because you think you're coming from a good place. Like in my case, I do. I think that I'm alerting people to some sort of, I don't think I'm being mean. I think that I'm actually pointing something out. And then 4 years later, 6 years later, they're like, that isn't cool that you would say that. And you're like, oh, well, fair enough.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, I have some gender jokes because I get misgendered a bunch. And, every time I tell them, there is a part of me that's like, is this okay? I understand. I guess, having a background as a lawyer, I only mention that because my mom wants me to mention it on every podcast. No, but because like I can see both sides to a lot of stuff.
Right.
And so my stuff
well, that's
is like,
admirable. Good for you.
Oh, thanks. I'm a really good person. So, but I do get misgendered. And what I say on stage about it is like, I think whatever, call people the gender they want. Who fucking cares? Right.
Right.
But like, I don't mind getting misgendered. I even participate in my own misgendering because I was walking down the hallway of my own apartment. I see myself in the mirror. I'm like, excuse me, sir, so, and then I'm like, I'm sorry. You always have to over apologize.
Right. Yeah.
But I have like a new thing. I'm starting to talk about my in-laws on stage. I love my in-laws. Great people.
Right.
And like very different from my parents. And my father-in-law is so progressive, which is great. I grew up with a Latvian dad who was like so black and white and everything. Like, that guy.
Harumph.
Exactly. And my father-in-law is not that way at all. And he rolls up to every Zoom with he, him, his, and he looks like a 73-year-old father-in-law. Like no one's like, what are your pronouns, Gary?
Right.
Literally, and it's like, I know it's funny and I am saying it, but it's like, is there an element of that embeds an assumption about gender that in some way I'm reinforcing by making that joke? And to be honest with you, I mean, I'm fine to tell it, but that's
because it is
about.
Your experience. Yeah. I mean, the cool thing about those jokes, and who was it? Jesse spacing his name. He's great. But
Yeah.
he does a joke about being called a name when he was a kid, and he gets off stage, and he actually tagged the joke about how people come up to him and they say, that word is really hurtful, and he goes, yeah, it really hurt my feelings when people said it to me.
Right.
And they're like, well, it's just really hurtful. He goes, yeah, it was hurtful. Thank you for noticing. And so, I mean, and the joke is about how hurtful the word is. And it's just the gay F, I don't feel like saying it. So I don't, I said it, in any number of the 80s were alive in my life. And, I was called, I mean, I think I used to tell a story about the joke that I'm talking about is, it is interesting because it didn't feel, it's the Indian casino Native American frozen food joke that I think was in that same set on Conan. And Indian casino, and essentially, like, I reference a bunch of Native American tragedies.
Okay.
As food, as fast food titles.
Oh,
and
sure.
Essentially, I'm just like, these are things that, quite honestly, 10 years ago when I did that, it was not in the zeitgeist as to what people were thinking about. And now it is more so, just because of the advances in Native American sort of activism, which has always been there, but has been more publicized because of the pipeline and the Lakota and all that stuff. But like, I didn't think I was helping when my stand-up, when I write a joke, I don't go, well, this is going to help. Though I am writing a joke about, it's essentially a pep talk about America and the Constitution. And,
oh, great.
Right. It'd be great if there were some punchlines, Liz Glazer. Until that day, we're just going to keep plugging along, looking for those punchlines. I
want to get in the Constitution's pants. See if that one works. Just spread it all around.
Oh my God. All right. That's okay. So I have to write down the word "get in the Constitution's pants."
Yep.
Because that's what I'm like.
Yeah.
I write down lines.
Yeah.
So, Liz Glazer, let's just say this. Do you have albums that people can go listen to on the Amazon, iTunes?
Sure.
That they can buy?
I sure do.
That'd be great. Sure do.
Yeah. I came out with an album called A Very Particular Experience, and that's my one album that's out. Trigger warning, because it is about grief and stillbirth. And so that's something my wife and I experienced. And that was the impetus for writing and performing that specific album, which has to do a lot with like generational trauma and death and grief related to and surrounding this specific stillbirth experience that happened.
Right. Yeah. So that's
but it is funny
and sad.
It is.
It's terrifying, sad, and hilarious, you guys. Get out there. Liz Glazer album. So let's talk about your dorkdoms. We're 10 minutes in. I think it seems fair that we would talk about the things that you love besides stand-up. Yeah. And one of them, hilariously, is something I've never heard of. Allan Carr and the Easy Way. An easy way? The easy way?
So Allan Carr is this guy who is no longer alive, sadly. I guess. I mean, I didn't know the guy, but it is sad when people die. And he is famous for this book that causes people and allows people to quit smoking cigarettes. And so maybe you've heard of it. Like sometimes when I say that, people, oh, really? You don't know about this?
Wait. No.
Yeah.
I've never.
Okay.
Wait, so it's like a sort of a self-help, but it's a book where you,
Yeah. So, and I heard about it because like, people would go on like Howard Stern and talk about, I think Ellen quit smoking cigarettes, if I'm not wrong, by way of Allan Carr's book. But like, that's just the tip. I mean, this guy, translated into 1 million languages. It's like a huge hit. Ironically and very sadly, died of lung cancer. This guy.
Well,
so I know. You have to.
There are
Yeah.
people who don't smoke at all who die of lung cancer.
I know.
But it is slightly ironic because it is the smoker's disease.
Sure.
When was this book written?
Great question. I don't know the pub date. Yeah, but it's decades old. I don't know offhand, so I don't want to like say an answer and then it's just wrong. But so he writes this book, and then it just like takes off. It's this like kind of, I mean, I was gonna say it's a magic thing, but the book itself says it isn't magic. So then I'm like, hypnotized to not say the thing, whatever. But basically,
yes.
Yeah, no. So the way that I think about it, and I'm obsessed with him and this method. One, it did help me to quit smoking cigarettes. I picked up smoking cigarettes as a habit in law school. So it was like a little bit later in my life. And like, I never was like a huge smoker, but I knew that I couldn't quit because I would say I was going to quit. And then I'd like, have one outside of a bar or whatever it was. And so I used to say when I was a smoker that if I had one regret in my entire life, it would be smoking that first cigarette because everything stems from there. Then I read this guy's book, okay? And I had such a good time reading, and I listen. I'm an audiobook person. I really like it to like seep into my brain cells. I feel like it's better. Also, I did do the one for women, which is 2 hours longer. No clue why. But I was like, listen, if there's 2 hours more.
And he still wrote it?
He
tapping
wrote
into
it.
his intergender issues. Good for him.
Well, yeah, I think he did. I mean, I think he has like associates and minions, groupies, whatever. But it's narrated. He totally does. And it's narrated by this woman who she sounds like Helen Mirren, and so it's like she's like
always a delight. Yeah.
Totally, never not, truly. And so she's like. I remember she's like, if you see a smoker, don't envy them, pity them. And like now I think about that. Yeah. I know. And it's a whole thing. But so he basically, and this is true of all of his stuff, because he wrote the smoking book. It takes off like gangbusters. And
1985, by the way.
Oh,
1985.
There you go. Okay, great. And so then he and his associates write all these other books about other stuff. So it's like you can get out of debt, quit drinking, like anything you could be addicted to. Yeah.
Right. Sex. You could you could get away from porn. You could do all
probably
all the things. All right. Yeah. It's just he reskinned it is what you're telling me.
Yeah. I mean, smart, but it's like he brainwashes you to believe that you've been brainwashed to believe that you like this thing that you're addicted to. And at the end of that process, you're kind of like it's like a checkmate, right? Where it's like, well, or I guess the move right before you're checkmated, where it's like, well, either way, I'm going to die. Or I guess either way, I'm going to lose something, right? And it's just a question of like, which one's going to kill me?
Okay. It's sort of that reverse psychology.
Yeah.
Essentially, which feels very 1985, by the way.
Totally. Yeah, so
I think that was
Well, no, what were you going to say? Sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. Go ahead. It's reverse psychology was a big plot point in sitcoms in the 80s. There you go. It was a recurring joke in sitcoms and dramedies as they were created. I think Gilmore Girls, where people were like, oh, you don't want me to do that, so I'm going to say I want to do that, and then you're going to say don't do that, and then we're going to do the thing I wanted anyway. Right. And so maybe everyone was reading this book because that's what. So the I don't know when he died. But I did a quick Google of him because I do no research. You'll be happy to know, Rangers. You remember. So it says the easy way method is about learning to see your addiction from a new angle, removing the reasons for your smoking in the first place, and realizing that cigarettes have absolutely nothing good to offer. But that doesn't sound like that would work because those are just that just sort of makes sense. I mean, you could say that about anything. Like, why
Right.
don't you
And
study more? Why don't you
yeah.
exercise more, kind of thing?
Well, and I think it's like you got to be in the place where you're open to the book, I think is like one key component.
Right.
Because if you're open to it and then somebody's like filling your brain with like, listen, you don't even like this anyway. And he's really good at taking apart each of the reasons for the thing that you think you like, but that's actually making you at least miserable enough to pick up the book.
Does he say anything about how, there's an actual physical chemical addiction?
Yeah, he does
that
talk
cigarettes?
about it, but
Yeah.
under his logic, that is 1% of the addiction, and the other 99% is mental. And this is
mental.
true for like, I mean, literally, because I'm read his one about sugar. I'm reading the one now about emotional eating, and
Okay.
it's like it's interesting because I would say also, like, now that I'm in the middle of the emotional eating one, I'm noticing, just like you do when you're rereading things, you notice different stuff. And
Right.
it's the ease that is the real key, because he's like, listen, you can willpower your way to like whatever, right?
Sure.
But number one, you'll probably go back at some point. And number two, even if you don't, and you willpower your way to like the end of your life, you're going to be so miserable the whole time, and you don't have to be. And my thought with it is kind of like, if he's right, like it's almost like if you could take a pill in a sci-fi sense and like do something like, I find, not eating sugar to be hard. I find it hard to not eat whatever, right? And I know that it might be like weighing me down energetically or whatever it might be, but I'm like, but it's hard. And according to him, that's part of the myth that keeps you in the cycle. So it's like really interesting to just be open to that idea, because it's like, listen, if he's right and it's really that easy and I could like live my best life and it's easy, why not?
Right. And all he's saying is it's not hard. It's just not hard. You've been told that it's hard. And so because you've been told that it's hard, it's hard. So let me tell you that it's not hard.
Right.
And let me try to help you internalize the words. It's easy.
Yeah.
Don't sweat it. Just, And if you can trick yourself into believing, for probably 5 years, I tricked myself into believing I didn't like cheese.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I didn't eat, I would have occasional cheese and it was delicious.
Yeah. Sure.
But I was like, that's all right. And, but I have to say that to run something like that, when you're aware of how hard it is, does sound like you would go back just because of the constant vigilance of it all, because you just get tired of that constant vigilance.
Yeah.
And so, I think, well, that's amazing. But so what you're doing is you're just sort of trying to reprogram yourself into believing that it's easy, and thus making it worthwhile to try it under. And granted, with some of this stuff, with smoking and with eating and with booze or with drugs or with any of these things, absolutely anything that you try to try to stop, if it's affecting your life negatively, throw noodles at the wall, see what sticks.
Know.
Who cares? Right.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
And this is like a book on, it's even my mom's Audible. So, it's one credit. And I love to like take a long walk and listen to, for me, it's particularly self-help books. I gotta feel like I'm learning something, or else, I don't know, it just like, it doesn't work for me. But I love that. It's like one of my most enjoyable things is just like going and listening to a book. So,
okay.
Yeah, I do like it.
Wow. So I'm on my brother's Audible. And I've been buying mystery novels that he wants no part of, but he buys a lot of science fiction. So
sure,
I listen to some of it, but he he sometimes buys books. You know how they say, don't judge a book by its cover? My brother
Sure.
judges an Audible book by how long it is. He
Yeah.
wants it to be a 23-hour book because
so
he
he's
drives
like my
so much.
mom. Okay, got it. Oh, so he's listening to sci-fi driving around. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. My
So
mom's
he's
like
got to drive a
on.
lot.
So my mom loves the
And he loves to
Outlander
drive.
stuff.
So
And
that's his
so I think they're pushing like 49 hours on some of those
Oh.
guys, you know?
thing. Yeah. Yeah.
And she likes to listen to him over and over again. I mean, she listens to other stuff too, but I don't know what genre that is. I feel like that's kind of in between yours and your brother. Yeah?
What, the mystery ones or?
No, Outlander, because isn't it like a little bit?
It is. It's sort of a romance novel. It's an action, sword and sorcery kind of thing, time travel.
Yeah.
So there's science fiction elements to it.
Right.
But I might as well read Clan of the Cave Bear, which he, by the way, had the books on tape of that back in the 90s.
Oh.
And he would listen to it with his kids and then fast forward through the sexy parts.
Oh, sure.
And right, because he didn't need to. He was like,
yeah.
They don't need to hear it. I certainly don't need to be there when they're hearing it.
Right.
And
right.
It's all making all of us uncomfortable. So,
Yeah.
and I could never get into it. But
yeah,
I mean, there's so many books. There are genuinely so many books in the world that to judge somebody for the book that they love doesn't make any sense to me. You know, unless it's Ayn Rand, because that can bleed over.
Sure.
into real life, where you're just like, oh, this is telling you to be thoughtless. Congratulations.
Right.
And,
that's why you suck.
That's right. This is just reinforcing in an Allan Carr kind of way that you should definitely just think of yourself and fuck everyone else. Congratulations.
Totally.
Yeah.
Allan Carr, by the way, safe for the whole family in the car. No sex scenes at all.
Right. He's using the think system from the Music Man. And I don't know if you've ever seen that particular musical, but there it is.
Yes.
I'm also wondering when Allan Carr passed away.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know that date either.
2006
Oh.
in Spain, where he took his cool self-help book money and was on holiday. He is a British guy. He's a guy from the UK, and it's interesting that he has Helen Mirren reading it. Do you know when she recorded that?
It's not actually Helen Mirren. It's a woman who sounds like Helen Mirren. but she's delightful because she sounds like Helen Mirren. I wish I knew her name, because I certainly don't mean a bit of shade to this narrator who's amazing, but I don't know her name. Who
has literally stuck the landing and you're on board. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah. So yeah, no worries on that. I will say that he sounds fascinating. I don't know. And if it worked, if it worked 3% of the time, it matters to that starfish. What the hell? What do I, And so there's a variety of different ways. Like there's a bunch of people who are taking, and I know a couple of people who are taking like a sort of an Ozempic, whatever it's called, diabetic medicine. There's a variety of new diabetes medications that actually the side effect is weight loss.
Yeah,
and people do want a pill.
Yeah.
But you don't know what it's going to do long term, right?
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
because it's so new. Remember, I can't remember the name. Olestra. They were putting it in everything.
Oh, yeah. The like chips,
anal leakage. Yeah, there were potato chips, and it would cause.
Yes,
all of a sudden,
I do remember
your body
that.
would want to export all of the poops.
Yeah,
and,
I remember having those chips. For sure.
I did try them.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this is pointless. Because I am much heavier than I would like to be. And I gained some weight during lockdown. But it's
same.
Yeah. And I haven't been able to shake it, because I think that's also related to emotion. And I've been vaguely, just worried and depressed and, just trying to fight the good fight. Right.
I feel you.
I'll say this. I feel I posit, and I have on previous semi-published works, that it's not that I eat poorly. It's
Sure.
just that I eat all of it.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
quantity, not the quality of what I'm eating.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally get it. And like, I try really hard. For me, it's really for myself. Like I never, I don't like judge anybody for what they're doing or not doing, but like for me, it's like, I don't want to judge myself like, oh, this is bad. I'm just like, well, I want to be honest and real with myself about how I'm feeling. And if there's
Right.
some behavior in my life that I'm like, this isn't working for me. Like a recent example that's less, it's more innocuous is like with the phone, right? At night before bed,
Right.
I was just scrolling and I'm like, this is like really good for nobody. And then a therapist was like, why don't you just put it in a drawer? And I started doing that. And it's like, sometimes it's a little fix and it's like, I'm way happier in the morning waking up, you know?
Right. Everyone who doom scrolls or even watches the news. My mother-in-law moved in with us about a year and a half ago.
Mhm.
And when she lived alone, she would watch the news before bed.
Sure.
And you know how local news always has the happy thing at the end?
Yes.
Because even they know that you shouldn't go to bed. They need to show like a raccoon and its babies, hanging out with a cat or something.
Right.
And I just won't do it. I don't watch the news at all. Anyway, I only read the news.
Yeah.
And I refuse to read the news before bed because I can wait till midday tomorrow to find out what's happening in Indonesia.
Right.
Because I can't do anything about it anyway.
Yeah.
So if I need to send $100, to wherever,
Sure.
which is what I can do globally, by the way.
Yes.
Globally, that's what I can do. I can send $100. And but locally, the ripple effect. I cannot be a jackass to my barista. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
How about I can be nice to the person in front of me, and that will, I believe, one day foster world peace.
Yeah.
But
Amen.
as much as anything, right? And and the $100 can't hurt, right?
Sure.
I can send it to the food bank. I can send it because it's in November and December. I asked people not to donate to the Dork Forest. I asked them to instead find their local food bank and donate to them, and then give me their money in January. Give me your money. And then
that's great.
Everybody who sends me money in November and December has donated essentially to the LA Food Bank. Which
great.
needs it. Totally needs it. But I get the karma.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if you're in Skokie, there's probably a food bank there.
Yep.
And you might want to send them the $20 you were going to send me.
No, that's a great thing.
But it's the little things like that, like putting the phone away.
Yep.
That feels like the think system too. Chad Daniels was talking about or doing there's like weird parenting things. Where he won't let his kids have their phones in the room. And they're like 15 and 17 at this point. And it's like everybody has to plug in, including me, phones in the kitchen, plugged in. Leave them there.
Yeah.
And then go to bed. And then my friend Jennifer, my old roommate Jennifer, she wouldn't let her kids. Her older daughter just turned 16, and she said, "You can get a phone when you're 16." And I said, 16 seems super late.
Yeah.
For kids. Yeah. And I said, well,
Nowadays,
how do you hook up with the kids after school and with stuff? And she said, well, when they were 8, I gave them watches. And I said, meet me here at 2. And I was like, old school. Yeah.
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 Totally. That's great. Yeah. I appreciate, especially for the phone, having like a place-based rule, right? So it's like we don't do phones in bed. And so it goes in a drawer, which is still in the bedroom. Although sometimes it doesn't matter. It's like in the drawer, so I'm not looking at it. And that has made all the difference because then it's like I associate the bedroom with phonelessness.
Yes.
Yeah.
With Andy is irritated if I'm on the phone and also trying to talk to him.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
he's like one or the other. And
Yeah.
we both play a phone game
Yeah.
called Marvel Puzzle Quest, and we have
Ooh.
for almost 10 years. It
Wow.
is it's a match 3. It's like Candy Crush-ish, except for that you're powering up Marvel superheroes and then you're doing versus fights. So it's super fun.
Yeah.
And the and they are consistently updating the characters, and they go very much into the long boxes of the different characters. But whatever it is, so we will sit next to each other in bed,
Yeah.
and parallel play like toddlers.
That's cute.
We're adorable. But when we're at the dinner table, or when we're we're doing other things, and I'm trying to talk to him, like he's driving and I'm just in my phone.
Right.
He's like, you can be in your phone, but don't try to talk to me. And certainly don't try to show me a video of a dog while, while we're driving.
Right.
So,
right.
okay.
Yeah.
I've weeded off on you. So I will say this about my dad quit smoking when he retired. And it feels like he might have read The Easy Way. Because he smoked 4 packs of cigarettes a day for 30 years.
Wow.
Which is 80 cigarettes.
It's
he
a
had
lot.
to wake up at night to get those cigarettes in.
Yeah.
And I will say that he quit because they were too expensive when he retired. Essentially, when he stopped working full time. Is he fully retired now? I hope so. He's 86.
Yeah,
but
that's great.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, I don't want to spend, like when he was in the Navy, they were free.
Yep.
But it was 1952.
Yeah.
So, and in the 70s, they were $1 a pack. And he would complain about it.
Sure.
And then in the I think he quit in the 90s. And 86, there's nothing on his lungs. He is an amazing.
And those are great stories,
it's
where
a
it's like,
crapshoot.
yeah,
Cancer.
yeah, totally. Yeah. But yeah, that's amazing. My dad also quit cold turkey, years. My dad is no longer alive, but like he had quit for decades prior to when he died.
Do you know why? Just because it was unhealthy?
Unhealthy. He had heart disease for 40 years. And so at some point, I think it was that he had a hospital stay that was like over a week, and he wasn't smoking in the hospital. And then upon exiting the hospital, he's like, well, I was able to not smoke there. I think I'll just not smoke. And so then he just did it. Yeah.
Allan Carr would be proud of it. Yeah.
Yes, except for the fact that I think it was hard every single day of my dad's life. Yeah. And so that's the piece that's like a little bit different, where it's like, sure, you could do it, but like there's just no reason to believe that you're depriving yourself of anything.
Okay. Yeah, that's such a great, it's a great attitude where you're just like, and people who don't, like, I never feel like I'm depriving myself of cigarettes because I don't care.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've never cared. Like I tried to smoke a couple of times because I wish to be cool.
Yeah.
And as a young person. And it turns out it didn't take, and I was enormously kind of lucky that it didn't trigger anything in me that made me go, oh, or that I, and the fact that he smoked 4 packs of cigarettes a day, and my mother, my stepmom smoked 2.5.
Oh, wow.
Meant that I reeked like a cigarette.
Sure.
Right. Until I moved out. Absolutely no one believed that I didn't smoke in junior high. Wow. In junior high, they were like, you have to stop smoking. And I was like, I don't smoke. It was like, you reek of cigarettes. And I was like, I don't smell it. And it's because I lived in secondhand smoke.
Right.
So,
wow.
Yeah. So it's weird. But, yeah, I don't know how to laterally move to your next dorkdom, but I think we.
Oh, sure.
Wait, well, you know what? Maybe I ask you because I want to know. Because
Yeah.
one of your dorkdoms was so crazy to me. The
Uh-huh.
original Nordic track? What?
Yep, you know it. So listen, I'm a gal of the 80s. I feel like every one of my things now, it's like this guy from 1985 and like, so, okay. So the original Nordic Track ski machine
Yes.
was, you know, a lot of people have them in their basements. You know, they're great clotheslines because they got a lot of height on them, especially at the top of the arm resistance.
You could
thing.
dry things. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I remember, let's see, maybe it was like 1995. I was about 15 and I was watching this channel that was basically Craigslist kind of before Craigslist existed. It was Channel 3 on my parents' cable and it was called Swap and Shop. And it looked like a DOS screen, you know, from like
just
the
a
80s.
regular blue screen.
Yeah, right, like pixelated letters, you know, and it was like these ads of people in town selling stuff, and you would just watch the channel, and if you wanted, you give them a call. And so,
wow,
yeah. And so I was watching, and there was like Nordic Track ski machine. I think I had like some babysitting money, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go get that. Mommy, can you drive me to like Bergenfield or whatever? It was like, you know, 5 minutes away. And we go to these people's house and they haul it up from the basement. And I remember the person outside in their driveway was like, you know, it's a little weird because the thing with the Nordic Track is it's two separate pulley systems. You know, it's not like an elliptical where an elliptical, if you're doing the legs, the arms are slightly easier and vice versa. This is two separate systems. So it's like patting your head and rubbing your stomach. You have to like coordinate it. And so I remember the woman. You're
actually sort of skiing.
Yeah, you are. And so, and I've done cross-country skiing in real life. I wouldn't say it's like a one-to-one transfer. It's a little bit different, but like I had never cross-country skied. And then I was like, oh, I actually like kind of do know how to do this from doing Nordic Track. So in any event, but I remember the woman at the house was like, just do the legs for the first 3 days so that you really get a sense of those and then incorporate the arms. And it's like, I mean, it's a total body workout, no doubt, because you're doing resistance on your arms and legs. You can adjust them separately. That said, you might fall over the whole machine in adjusting them, but no matter.
Are you adjusting them while you're on it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like reaching. Lunging. I mean, because it's like, it is a patented system, whatever it is, which isn't surprising, but it's so low tech that, you know, it's like literally like turning a wheel that gets tighter and that makes the resistance tight. You know what I mean?
Can you do it when you're not on the vehicle, when you're not on the machine?
Yeah, you could.
Okay.
But like in the middle of like, let's say you're doing a 20-minute workout, you might want a little more resistance, a little less resistance, like within the 20 minutes or something like that. So that's my experience with it. And I did apply when I was like 15 or 16. There was a Nordic Track store in the mall near my parents' house. And I
remember those stores.
Yeah. I applied to like for a summer job and I didn't get it. And there was like this older guy who got it. And I remember I would like go to the mall and just like kind of stalk the Nordic Track store. I mean, undoubtedly he was like much more the demographic of like who was buying this machine, which I think was like older guys, you know, so I can appreciate it.
Yeah. So it was, so you got it's secondhand, but the Nordic Track was indeed from the 80s as well.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But you got it in the 90s.
I did.
And there was a Nordic Track store in the mall in the 90s.
Yep, that's true. Because I don't think so I know that the company did file for bankruptcy sometime in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. And then they were like, rebranded. Like they exist now. I think they have kind of like a Peloton competitor, but it's not the same like management or whatever as the 80s company.
Oh, right. Owners and things have changed because of. So the machine itself is essentially. So did you do that thing with the legs the first 3 days?
I did.
Just to get used to how it moved?
Yeah.
Okay. And then do the poles move when you move the legs? Like sort of like the Peloton or the ellipticon?
No. So the legs are just the legs. And then the poles, well, it depends on the model. So the standard one, there's strings with like, handles at the bottom of the strings. And if you're not touching them and moving them, you can just set them down on the machine and just do the legs.
Are they not poles? They are actually sort of like jump rope handles?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, so they could just hang and then you're just doing, is there sort of a Zimmer frame? Is there a frame for you to kind of balance on, or do you have to balance when you're doing the feet all by yourself?
The standard model just has a hip pillow thing that you kind of shove yourself up against, so that if you are doing the arms, you've got kind of your torso is in front of this pillow thing. Yeah.
So the pillow's in front of you to sort of as a buffer. So if you were to fall over, it would stop you.
I guess.
Kind of thing. Maybe a little safety.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I wouldn't say that if someone was in dire fear of falling, that this would be my first recommendation for what kind of exercise machine you'd go to.
Yeah. Well, it actually sounds relatively complicated.
Yeah.
Like early days, and then it's been dumbed down quite a bit.
And that's the thing I love about it. So you had asked me when we were emailing if I have one. I sure do. In our basement, we've got one. And
is it the one you bought, or is this a newer model or a different version?
I don't know if it's a newer model, because I have bought and sold and given away over, the past, I don't know how many years. I could not tell you how many NORDIC tracks, because every time I move, these things don't move well. And it's the kind of thing that it's like, listen, I'll just give it away in Chicago. And then when I move to New York, I'll pick up another one. I went to a gym for a summer. It was like across the street from a job I had. And they had one NORDIC track. It was not on the cardio floor. It was not on the weights floor. It was on the floor with the employees' lockers. And it was like by a stairwell. And I would do this thing. And one day, some manager from the gym comes by. He's like, have you ever seen anyone on this thing? I was like, no. He's like, do you want it? Because we want to get rid of it. And so that, that was a Club 900 model, which those are pricey. Those are like $3,000 retail.
And so, okay, it's called a Club 900? What was it?
Yeah, 900S, if I'm not wrong. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I know
what year was
models.
that? Was that the early 2000s or was
it 2003? That would have been.
Okay.
And I don't know if the model was like a 2003 model. My guess is that they had gotten it a few years prior and like it was collecting dust, and because it's hard. It's like it's not.
It sounds really. Yeah. It doesn't sound
hard.
like. Yeah. It doesn't sound like you get like a treadmill. You get on it.
Right. Yeah.
And you're like, you walk. It's like it's like a
you're hoofing.
Yeah, you're So it's genuinely intuitive. A treadmill.
Yes.
As opposed to a NORDIC track, which does not feel intuitive.
However, it's very low impact, which is an interesting thing because you're not like banging knees or anything like that. And so it's pretty like safe, assuming you get the hang of it and all that, you can really like, get a great workout and be essentially walking. Like, yes, skiing or whatever, but you're not going to feel sore from it. but you're going to be sweating and panting.
Okay, because if you're doing it at your pace.
Yes.
And the resistance is whatever it is, and
Right.
once you figure out how to get your feet going,
Yeah.
you've done 3 days of this is how you walk on this thing, and
Sure.
now you're adding this, and you're patting your head and rubbing your stomach. You said,
Yeah.
which I've absolutely never been able to do, and but you're doing it at your own pace, so it's a full body workout.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you can get these puppies for like probably $20, $50. I think during the pandemic, they were, like maybe people were selling them for a little bit more because people were into like at-home workouts in a different way. But I mean, the last one I paid literally $40, went to some guy's house, 30 minutes away. He's got one in his garage, whatever, Right.
You just have to find someone with a truck. And because they're tall, right? I mean,
well, they fold. So I had mine in an SUV, put the seats down. Oh yeah. So it's no big.
Wait, it's
the
collapsible.
One from it is collapsible. Yeah. The one from the gym was collapsible, but that was a project that I needed my brother's car, which is bigger because it was just the gym model,
Right.
But generally, you can fold them. And I remember like seeing advertisements during the 80s, like the original commercials for NORDIC TRACK, and they really pushed the foldability, which I don't think, this is not a machine you want to be folding every single time. It's
right. This is right.
Yeah.
It's you want to fold it to move it, and then you leave it up and put your laundry on it.
I think so.
That seems to be the nature of the vehicle.
Yeah.
So, a full so I kind of like the idea of a full body workout that isn't too stressful on your knees.
Oh yeah.
And because it's a lot of joint stuff, right? And you just you want to be able to do stretches and stuff like that, and this is doing it because you're just walking and moving.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, I think it's like, tell me, you wonder.
No, I wonder if there's like you say that they're still in business. Are they? Have they made it easier? I wonder. Like the version that you have, is it more integrated than it was?
I don't think so. I don't think that model. I think it's sold just fine initially, which is why people have them in the basement. But I think that like there hasn't been the kind of demand for people really wanting this workout because it's such a thing you got to like really commit to getting used to.
Right.
You can buy them new, but I wouldn't. Yeah, that's right. That's totally right.
It's got a wooden, like it looks like a hand truck. That's what it looks like. It looks like a and then okay, so those two wires are literally sort of the jump rope.
Yep.
Things.
And you can adjust them to your, arm span.
Right, okay. So I would recommend, without knowing anything about this, as per usual, I have an opinion. That you get a spotter the first time you do this.
Oh yeah, I think that's a great idea. And
because if you're 16, you can fall off of things, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
you will just get up.
Yes.
And but if you're 50 and you fall off, it might actually put you off getting on the thing ever again.
Oh yeah.
So
good idea. Yeah, but I always wondered why it wasn't more popular based on, just like people wanting low impact, people wanting something that, because you can like, you'll tone your arms too from the resistance on the arms while you're doing cardio. And so it's like this kind of magic thing. I mean, it's boring is like the one thing, but
I don't think you're breaking any, I don't think you're revealing anything that people don't know.
Right. Well, but I do have a suggestion for the boring thing, which is, so there's this website, Nordic Parts, and it's some guy who worked at NORDIC TRACK prior to their filing for bankruptcy that got all the parts. And so it's the monitors, it's the whatever, the heart things, and I don't know, all the various like paraphernalia
right.
that
Because
go
if you
along
hold
with it.
on, it could give you your pulse rate or something.
Yeah,
Okay.
stuff like that, like those kind of bells and whistles. And this guy runs a whole business for the two people who have Nordic Tracks, right?
Yep.
And one of the products is this lucite shelf that goes on the thing, and you can put like a book or an iPad or whatever. And I think that would, or your phone, and watch something while you're doing it.
Oh, like in hotel.
Yeah.
Like hotel gyms and regular gyms have TVs.
Yeah. So that's what I would recommend, in addition to a spotter, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the spotter's a safety thing, and the other thing is just a boredom alleviator.
Yes.
So do you have this in your living space?
I do. Yeah.
And and you live in New Jersey, so there might be a little more room. It's not like you're in New York City and you have to sleep under it.
Well, I had it in a dorm room in my life. I had it when I was in law school. I took my Nordic Track with me. How
was that received by your roommate?
Well, I did have a single, because we did. That was just, whatever part of it. But I've had it in like apartments also. Not every apartment. And I'm not here saying that it's not taken up. It's a conversation piece.
Yeah, it definitely takes up space. So
it does.
So you also, but what are your other things? We're going to have you back to talk about YouTube jazz cartoons.
Okay. Well, this one.
Because right now.
Do you want me to say 5 seconds? Oh, weightlifting? Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's what I thought we'd do a lateral move to, because it's also exercise, right?
Well, yeah. So weightlifting, I love weightlifting, and I love it because, like, what I don't like about exercise is feeling like I'm gonna die. I don't enjoy that, and it's a common. I'm like, running. I hate it. I just hate it. It makes me so upset. Like, it makes me want to cry. Right. And at some point in my life, I just was like, I don't want to feel that way during exercise.
Were you a jogger?
In my life, I've like tried, but it doesn't.
Andy's taken up about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
He took up jogging. Okay. And all he would do is he just would walk for a mile, and then he would half run for a mile. And now he can run for 2 miles. And it's great. Not, but he says it kind of calms him down. So it's just something else that someone else enjoys. So you don't like that. So you enjoy weightlifting.
I do.
Is there a sense of accomplishment? What's happening?
Yeah. I do it with, there's this guy, Evan, who there's a gym near my house that's just weightlifting. Because I feel like one of the things that I've noticed is like, CrossFit gyms used to be more weightlifting forward, and then CrossFit changed to be like more of the exercise Olympics, because I used to do CrossFit like really long ago. And I felt like I didn't like it.
What is this doesn't CrossFit. What is CrossFit?
It started as this guy, Greg Glassman, in his garage, and he had a blog where he would like log his workouts, and his workouts would be some combination of like heavy lifting and like Navy SEALs type of workouts. Okay. And that spawned an entire like movement and these gyms. And now, at some point, I don't know if this is current, Reebok got involved, becomes a huge sponsor. They have like these.
There are shoes. There's special shoes.
Right. And so like everything, it becomes this whole business. But when I was looking back on my time doing it, I was like, what I really enjoyed was the lifting, because I think, to answer your question, like, it is a sense of accomplishment. I have a kid now, and for me, it is specifically motivating to just be in shape for the purpose of picking up and putting down my kid, not throwing on the ground like I might some heavy weights.
Not or being like not being able to pick up the kid. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so that's like, specifically the motivation that kind of got me back into it right now.
Weirdly enough, both my dad and my brother Russ are weightlifting gym rats.
Oh,
Like they're weightlifting. And my brother essentially raised his two sons to be weightlifters, and they did no cardio. And so when my younger nephew went to college, he had been eating like a weightlifter his entire life. So he was kind of a tank of a guy.
Yeah.
So when he went to college, he's the only guy that ever lost weight going to college because he had to walk to all of his classes.
Right.
And so he started getting cardio, and he was not eating a lot of carb, sort of, so he ended up losing a bunch of weight, which looked really good on him and whatever, but it also made him like bendier. Like it helped. It also helped because a mix of different kind of workout is good. But I think
so.
that strength training has done my father a great deal of good.
Yeah.
Now in his 80s, because he's still strong enough to walk.
That's great.
Sit and stand and do many things that people who didn't do a lot of strength training, I think, have harder times with.
Well, and that's another motivation for me because my mom now is 76 and she's, in pretty good shape, thankfully, knock on wood, etc. But she, definitely has this like fear around falling and feels like not strong. So to me, I'm just like, okay, I see my future possibly, right? Like we all do in our parents, at least possibly. And so I'm like, okay, if I can lift something now, I'm 44. And if that, makes my bone density better or something, like, why not? Like I can do it now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the attitude
and you enjoy it. Do you own your own weights?
I don't.
Yeah?
I mean, I think we have a few, but it's like I do enjoy that out of the house because I go to a gym that it sounds like maybe your dad and your brother go to where it's only weights. It's just like barbell city. There's
barbell city. Yeah.
They do have like a treadmill, but it's like people walk for 3 minutes before,
they're just warming up. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like nobody's like running.
Right. And have you seen those sort of weightlifting machines where you have to pull? It's a box or a half box.
Yeah, I've seen like what is it, like tonal? I feel like it's like a screen. I've seen that. I don't know if that's what you mean.
Yeah, no. I don't know anything about workout equipment, so I've seen a half box that looks like you're supposed to pull yourself up on the bar.
Oh, I don't know.
Pull-ups and stuff. Which are because there's with weights, it's mostly lifting, right? It's not pushing, it's not pulling.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Although we do some pushing stuff. I don't know. I mean, I'm sort of getting back into it at this point. I've had like, I don't know, 15 sessions with this guy, Evan, who I love. And but it is pulling. You're right.
Okay.
Yeah, we do that. But I don't know about the box.
Okay. Yeah, the box. Someone might know. Jackie. You guys, here's the thing. It has been an hour. We have talked. It's been a very sort of helpful episode of the Dork Forest where we're just
I'm so glad.
Sort of just looking into like different like what you're doing is you're just like you'd like to continue to be healthy. So it's and yet make it not painful and not fun and not something where you're beating yourself up if you're not doing it, or you're not beating yourself up as you do it. Right.
I know. And it's a struggle for me it does sound right. It's a struggle for me. I just want to say this, to do that. Like I'm very much in like a moment where I'm like, okay, I want to be better, but I also don't want to be mean to myself in that process.
Guys, internalize that. Yeah. You don't want to be mean to yourself in the middle of any process.
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Seems like a real terrible idea. Liz Glazer, is who I'm talking to. It's been a delight. It's at Liz Glazer
Jackie-cation.
everywhere.
Pleasure.
At LIZGLAZER, stand-up
Yep.
comic. Very funny, very smart. Do you have a podcast?
I don't have a
good for you.
podcast.
Look, it's a unicorn, you guys. It doesn't have a podcast. But if you get a chance, go out in the world, see Liz Glazer do the stand-up comedy because it's delightful.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank
And
you.
Rangers, you're welcome. Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other. It's the bonus with Andy Ashcraft. Please begin.
Hi, Adal. How was the show?
Well, it was super fun. It was with Liz Glazer, who's a great comic
yeah.
from the East Coast.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. And she had sort of more traditional dorky thing that she was going to talk about.
Mm.
But I didn't know who Allan Carr and Easy Way.
I have no idea. What's the context?
Easy Way is a book that he wrote or published in 1985.
Allan Carr.
Allan Carr.
Okay.
So Allan Carr, self-help author.
Oh, okay.
And the help that he offers the self
Mm-hmm.
is essentially like to sort of it's a stop smoking book
Oh, okay.
from 1985.
All right.
And then, of
That
course,
was
he
a good
built
time to be not smoking.
right, and he built an empire where you could stop doing everything else.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, like it was drugs, alcohol,
Wow. All
like,
right.
and it's the easy way.
And the foundation was smoking.
Was smoking, and it was the premise, as I understand it,
Mm-hmm.
is that if you're told that it's hard to do these things, when in fact, if you can trick yourself into believing that it's easy to do these things,
Okay.
it becomes easy to do these things.
Sure.
So he tries to re-brainwash you.
Okay.
And so
Into thinking, well, this thing that everybody else says is hard is actually easy.
right, he said
Right.
you can do it with willpower, but you
Right.
spend your entire life in constant vigilance,
Oh.
unhappy that you can't do the thing that's so hard to stop doing.
Right. Right.
Where
right,
if you
right.
could just reframe it and re-brainwash yourself into thinking that it's actually not a hard thing, it's an easy thing.
I think that's probably true for things that don't actually include some sort of physical
Addiction.
addiction.
I asked
right?
about that. I said, what does he think about the fact that nicotine is actually physically addictive? And she said that he claims that it's 1%.
1% of it's a physical addiction.
Is physical and 99%
of it-
is mental.
All right.
And if it works, and as I said on the show, if
Right.
it
If it
works
works,
for
it works.
that starfish,
Right. Right.
that's a happy starfish.
I certainly know that like people for doing other things that people think are hard, convincing people that they're not hard and showing them that they're not hard can be a real breakthrough. Like math.
Right.
People, many people grow up going, "Oh, math is hard, math is hard, math is hard, math is hard," and then they can't do math because they get stressed out that math is hard, or writing is hard.
Right.
It was very much this way for me for writing. Writing, putting together a page, an essay, a 1-page essay was like pulling teeth for me in high school.
But once,
But then at some point, like something clicked over, and then writing became easy,
and it might have been a teacher.
and it might have been a teacher.
Yeah. Which is what I guess Allan Carr is. And a guy who
Right.
died in Spain.
Oh.
In 2006. He was British. He,
On a plane?
no, he was, I assume he retired with a Scrooge McDuck pile of money to Spain. Liz Glazer said that she listened to the Audible,
Mm-hmm.
and the woman who read it sounded a lot like Helen Mirren. And she was like, I could take advice from Helen Mirren. And that's
We could all take advice from Helen Mirren.
right. Okay, so that was the first half hour. The second half hour, we talked about NORDIC TRACK, the original NORDIC TRACK.
Like the exercise machine?
Yes,
All right.
she loves it.
Okay.
She has owned several over her lifetime.
Okay.
The first one she bought, she got
Who
from.
wears them out?
Well, when you move, you just abandon. You just go, well, this isn't moving with me.
Because
They're
it's
heavy.
too heavy?
Yeah.
Okay.
But when she bought it, she had to buy it off of whatever version of it was called Swappin' something. It
Okay.
was a cable TV channel in the 90s. That's where she got her first one.
Now I want
she had
more
her
about
mom.
that. Now I want more about swapping something.
I know, it sounded amazing. It was a cable channel in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
On channel 4, 3 or 4, she said.
And you could post your things to the cable channel and
with a telephone number. And then people would just call you and
I
go,
guess it's no different than a newspaper with
it was
telephone.
Craigslist.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you call and you go, I'll have that. You want $40? And they're like, come on over. So her and her mom drove over
Mm-hmm.
and they picked it up. And the woman who
Not easily.
the woman who sold it to them told her to spend 3 days just doing the feet first because it's not connected. It's not like an elliptical. It's literally like a pair of skis and then a jump rope and a pair of pulleys.
Okay.
And everything is individual. So she
Okay.
said the first 3 days
A jump
just
rope.
well, it's not a bar. It's
Right,
not
right.
poles like a ski poles.
Right.
It's a rope
Oh,
with
okay.
essentially like a jump rope handle
Oh, I see.
that you pull on.
Oh, I see. So it gives you tension that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was that was a half an hour of fascinating.
Yeah.
And then
I
we
bet.
did very briefly. She likes free weights. She likes to go to she's a bit of a gym rat.
Oh, really? Interesting. Interesting.
And I weeded off several times and told stories about my dad and myself and my brother Russ. And which is what the Dork Forest is also about.
It's true.
And then
and our family conversations
right.
and our dates.
Yep. Sure.
And
and then and she's working on a new bit about in-laws, and I was fascinated because of course
you're working on a bit on in-laws.
Yep. Anyway, it was a great episode, and everyone, I'm glad you listened, and I'm glad you're
Me too.
a huge that you like the show. Take care of each other. I'll say it again. You know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?